This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information that will expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers. Hey, AONE fans, AJ here. I'm excited to talk more with Tim Titus about PathSolutions and what they have to offer. I'm joined tonight by Tim at Tim Bertino. Tim, how you doing?
Hey, AJ, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have had the opportunity to talk to Tim and hear about PathSolutions at previous network field days. And of course, they recorded a podcast with us. We'll drop a link in the show notes to that previous episode. You can go back and listen to that. But yeah, this is a super cool solution. I love the visibility that PathSolutions can bring to us network engineers, and I'm excited to share it with our audience. How about you, Tim?
Definitely. Industry trends seem to come and go, but network monitoring and visibility to me is something that's has always been and will always be a hot topic. I think a lot of our careers is about how we spend our time. And do you want to spend your time, digging through problems with people while troubleshooting skills are good to have? You want to be able to provide value to your organization and to your own career. And, to the people calling with problems, if you can open up a screen and be able to have all the information that you need to help fix an issue without having to ask that person calling, who's probably already frustrated, 100 questions, that's a big win for everybody involved. So I'm really excited to dig into what PathSolutions brings to this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And just from my own experience, both with previous tools that I've used and hearing from PathSolutions from a previous network field day, it's unique in that you used to have to go to this tool, to that tool, to this tool, that tool to aggregate all this information together. But you can get a whole lot out of PathSolutions just on its own. So I don't want to steal the thunder from Tim Titus. Tim, welcome to the show. If you could give us a brief introduction, a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Brief introduction. Well, let me see. I've been a network engineer for over 30 years. Started back in the days of coax, ArcNet, Novell NetWare, that sort of stuff. And I've pretty much cut my teeth on just about every network problem that has occurred out there. And I guess a little bit about the company is I got frustrated with the fact that everyone was still doing manual troubleshooting. Yeah. And it's like, why is it that we haven't moved to the easy button? Why is it that nobody's created a software package that tells you what's broken so you can proactively fix the problems in the network? And after a number of years of frustration, I figured, well, okay, if I'm getting frustrated and all of my other network peers are frustrated, why don't I do something about it? So that's where I quit my job, founded the company, and figured I'd build a solution that would automate that troubleshooting activity.
And I know we talked about this before. Did you have a deep background in software development, or is it just network engineering? How did you start to create PathSolutions?
I did have some background in software development, so I did do some C and C++ programming. Started building the skeleton out of how I wanted it to go. And I'll admit, a long time ago, this was built as a shareware solution, and it just grew from there because customers kept saying, "This is solving more problems for me in an automated fashion, lower in the tier one help desk." Means that engineers don't have to do as many tickets because they can push those things down to tier one help desk, and it just made it so that we just continued to grow and build to the point where I can't do the software development anymore. We've grown to the size of company where we have, I will freely admit, professional folks who do that for us now. So I was a bit of a hack, but quickly realized that you need to have professionals do it. But they started with a skeleton that I built a long time ago.
Yeah. And you know what? Something you can't give a software developer is your 30 years of experience as a network engineer. It's going to be so hard to teach them what you know about network engineering. So to be able to give them that input, that experience, and have them build the software around that experience is that's why it makes it such a valuable tool for, folks like Tim and I.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, and it's interesting is you're completely right. A lot of software developers, the way they would choose to build something wouldn't necessarily answer the equation. And it's the fact that we've built it to solve network engineer problems, solve problems that people encounter every day. And so that makes it a big difference between what we've done and how we've done it compared to a lot of other products on the market.
Right.
Yeah, I really want to highlight that, because back to how you want to spend your time in providing value, one thing, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is with the PathSolutions solution, is that it's one thing to gather and show you logs, be able to get logs and see, but you still have to do that correlation. Oftentimes, what PathSolution does that I really appreciate is it correlates those logs and those issues, and it presents them to you in forms of, here's the potential problem, and one step further, here's some potential solutions. And that's really, to your point, enabling network and systems administration teams to really push some of those problems down to an operations or out to an operations center level, so those admins and engineers can spend their time providing more value to more business-driven initiatives.
Yeah, more strategic level focuses, which, and I think we can all admit, we have never run into a senior network engineer that loves doing tickets.
Yeah, not me.
Nope. Definitely not on that one. Awesome, Tim. If you could give us, let's start with a high level, PathSolutions 101 for anybody that's watching the video that may not have ever, seen you on any previous event or anything. What is PathSolutions?
Sure. So our core solution focuses on network operations. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on today. We do have a separate telecom module that root causes troubleshoots call quality issues. We have a security operations module that adds all sorts of security features that end up making it an incredibly powerful solution for security folks because it's integrated with the network monitoring. We found that there's a whole bunch of security solutions that are standalone, and it's like, yeah, they're valuable, but having it fully integrated, there's some awesome things that can be done. And then the last module we have is a work from home troubleshooting module, which deals with the hybrid work. So regarding the NetOps, let's dive into that. So doing a quick compare, a lot of existing monitoring software packages look like this. You set up a master collector, you then have to set up, license, and support a database. Due to scalability limitations, you probably have to set up a couple of remote collectors because these things really don't scale very well. Then you configure it to monitor your switches, routers, gateways, and firewalls. This tends to be a bit of a manual process where you have to set these up individually. If anything's missed, well, then oops. At this point, you realize you want more information than just pinging these devices and getting a little bit of information on what's going on. So you add your internet connection, you add your WAN connections, you add a trunk port here and there. This is as far as most monitoring software goes. What now happens is, if a user complains about a problem, you go check your monitoring software and it says everything's healthy. What that is it's a disconnect between the reality of what's happening on the network and what the monitoring software is aware of. That means you're now left having to manually log into switches, log into routers, check interfaces, check error counters, check configuration, looking for that needle in a haystack as to what caused the user's problem. Sadly, if you do this exercise when the problem isn't happening, you're not likely to catch it because it means that you're going to have to tell the user, maybe the next time this problem happens, or the next time, you'll get a little bit closer. And that just leaves everybody frustrated. So we looked at this world and said, this day and age needs to come to an end. What's needed is automated troubleshooting. Here's what we do. We're going to deploy on a single machine. Typically, this is a virtual machine, either on-prem or in the cloud. It's going to install and immediately scan the network and find and interrogate every switch, router, gateway, and firewall, along with every interface. You think about it, you're responsible for the entire network. Shouldn't you have visibility that matches your responsibility? The second thing is we figured your network equipment is incredibly smart. There's all sorts of information trapped up inside of these devices. So we decided to also go deep. No matter what make, model, or manufacturer, we're going to dig into these devices to find all the performance, configuration, 19 different error counters, QoS, CDP. All of this rich information is then picked up, brought back, and then put through a heuristics engine. The heuristics engine produces plain English diagnostics of problems that are found. What that means is, within the first hour of deploying our software, we're going to tell you, we found a cabling fault. We found a microburst link flood. We found a VLAN tagging fault. Even the lowly duplex mismatch that other products just wouldn't be aware of, we're going to tell you we found. That means not only can you now be proactive about fixing the problems in your network, but you can also again push many of these down to Tier 1 help desk. That's going to improve overall efficiency of the organization and start making the network a better place because you know everything your network equipment knows. Now, the core product also includes the ability to path map. So this means if you had a problem between a PC and a server, or let's say a phone and a phone, we can show you every link, switch, and router used to connect these two and what happened along this path at any point in time during the day. That way, if somebody said they had a call quality problem, you map this out and say, oh, we were dropping packets out of the high priority queue on this edge router, and a few minutes later dropping packets due to a bad station cord. Thus, you have a root cause resolution of what caused this call to be bad. Now, you have everything you need for a perfectly healthy network, including the diagramming, port mapping, server monitoring, cloud service monitoring, inventory, IPAM, NetFlow, and configuration management to back up your configs and make sure that they're protected. So let's go into a short demo and show you what this is all about. So the solution is going to be rapidly deployed. This is a 90 megabyte installer. We're all coded in C and C++, so it's very efficient on the processor. You don't need to give us this gargantuan machine with eight processors and gobs of memory. Typically, a 2 or 4 processor machine should be fine for just about every deployment. 8 gigs of RAM should be fine, 20 gigs of disk space. It's going to install and immediately get to work and go out and scan your network and find every SNMP manageable device. It's going to find those switches, routers, firewalls, gateways. It's going to dig deep into each one that it finds and start collecting information. Now, we collect a lot more information than other products so that we can analyze what's going on. That means that very quickly, we're going to start to put red dots in front of devices where we find problems. So we've got a red dot in front of the Syrah switch. Let's click into that switch and see what's going on. Here we see that interface 5 has a red dot and 4% packet loss. Now, if we found packet loss on a switch port, I know a number of you are just saying, well, so what? You found packet loss on a switch port. Should I care? I mean, after all, if that's a printer or a photocopier, nobody cares. On the other hand, if this is a trunk port to another switch, or there's a critical router or critical server connected here, or it's a video conferencing unit, that's a high priority problem. So depending upon what's connected drives the criticality of the fix. So we make that easy to determine because we're going to expose all of the CDP and LLDP information so you can see what's connected upstream. You also have a fully integrated port mapper that shows what's connected. Looks like this interface has one MAC address and it's associated with the HQ voice VLAN. We can see the VLAN number, the MAC address, manufacturer, the IP address, and the DNS information for this device. Okay, so this is our voicemail recording server. Now that we know what's affected by this packet loss, I'd say this is a high priority problem because if you have packet loss on a switch port where there's a voicemail server, that's going to leave choppy sounding voicemails. So let's go see what the problem is. We click into the interface and we see the utilization graph. Below that, we see the packet loss graph. And then below that, the plain English prescription here telling us that we have a cabling fault. So it's that fast and easy to recognize. We have a problem on the Syrah switch, a problem with interface 5, problem relates to packet loss, problem affects this voicemail server. Here's when the problem started, here's when the problem stopped, and here's what the problem is. Now, something to recognize is that other monitoring software packages wouldn't even be aware of this problem because the first thing is they're not monitoring all of the interfaces. Even if they were configured to monitor this interface, they still wouldn't be aware of the problem. Here's why. If we click on View Error Counters, this is going to show all 19 of the error counters that we're picking up and analyzing. Other monitoring products, if they monitor an interface, they're only looking for inbound errors and outbound errors, and thus they would declare this interface as healthy and thus mislead you. The truth of the matter is we have a ton of FCS errors, deferred transmissions, some outbound discards, and since we analyze the presence and absence of all of these error counters along with the interface type and configuration, we can come up with those plain English prescriptions of what's going on. Now, if you want to learn about these error counters, we have a built-in engineer's library. Just click on the error counter. It's going to give you the official IEEE definition, a more basic lay definition, and then all of the different causes as to where the problem can come from. So you're never left abandoned wondering, where do I go from here? You have all of the information brought to bear so that problems can get solved quickly. So that's the depth we can go into on a single interface. Let's chain this together and find a problem between two devices. So I go to the Path tab. Let's say we have a user that said they were trying to connect to a server just before noon and they got dropped from their connection. Okay, let's put in the IP address of their computer, put in the IP address of the server they're connecting to. And by the way, these can be any two IP addresses, video conference unit to video conference unit, phone to phone, really any two IP addresses. You click map and it's going to show every link, switch, and router used to connect the two across the network. Here's the source computer. Looks like it's plugged into the Pino Layer 2 switch, connected to interface 7. Over the past 24 hours, that interface looks perfectly healthy, especially right before noon. Now again, when we say perfectly healthy, we mean perfectly healthy according to all 19 error counters. Outbound, the traffic's going out the Pino switch through interface 25. Looks like that interface here has 75% utilization, so there's more bandwidth available, and there's no packet loss. So that's actually a healthy interface. Inbound and outbound on the Syrah switch looks good. Outbound on the Burgundy switch, going out interface number 3, we take a look at that interface and say, gee, right before noon, that interface was dropping 6% of the packets. I think we found our suspicious interface. Click into the interface, read the plain English prescription, and get the root cause of the problem resolved. So this effectively was designed to make it the easy way to solve a problem between any two devices. And I think everyone's kind of had the situation where you've got to log into switches, log into routers, check the interface, check the error counters, check what's going on. And this just gets you the easy sauce way of doing it because all the information is here, including historic.
Yeah, that's incredibly valuable information. Again, it really brings the bar to entry a lot lower to be able to, for people to be able to provide value and help troubleshoot these things. You don't have to be all the stuff that you showed us so far, Tim. You don't have to be a senior network engineer to be able to come to conclusions on what problems are because PathSolutions is doing that for you. Something else that I really wanted to highlight was the device discovery process and how PathSolutions is doing network scans because, we're all human. We turn up new devices, we bring in new circuits, we put in new implementations. And, if your monitoring solution, it requires you to enter that device into the monitoring solution, the information it knows is only good as the information it knows, and we can forget to do those kinds of things. So the fact that you can put in a new device, turn up a new circuit, and PathSolutions will discover it and begin to start getting all of this information without you having to do anything, that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah. It can be actually set to auto-discover new devices in your network. You just set a device on the network with an IP address and a community string that is used by your organization, and it can auto-discover that, let's say at midnight, if you have that scan set up. That way, you can just say it's already added to monitoring. If it goes down, if we have any problems, we're aware of it. And by the way, it knows what the trunk port is on that device. It knows where there are routers connected. So it knows the high priority interfaces. So all of your alerts that are set up will also fall true on that device. It truly is just automated network monitoring.
How many times have you deployed like a new IDF closet switch and completely forgot to add it to monitoring? Right? Like that's just like a
more times than my coworkers care to mention. Yeah.
Or what's sad is you say, "Oh, I'm going to skip adding this to monitoring because it's only going to be here temporarily."
Yeah.
And then realistically, what happens is it's there for 6 months because it's actually performing its job for 6 months, and everyone has forgotten about its existence.
Yeah. What's that old saying? It's only test until it works, and then it becomes production.
Tim, so many questions.
Features.
90 megabyte file for the installer with everything that you described, and you said that was a 90 megabyte file. My head exploded. That's crazy.
We had this giant banner in our development lab saying "No bloatware."
That's a wonderful mantra to live by. Are we talking about Windows? Please edit that out. Windows or Linux? Oh, okay.
Actually, it's Windows. So this will deploy Windows incredibly rapidly. And the thing is, we coded this in C and C++ because we thought we'd end up eventually having a Linux deployment. What we found is that people are just so hungry for this that they're like, okay, I will do this on whatever platform it is. But I still will admit, most of our customers, they have a Windows machine around that they can deploy this on. And actually, I'll give you a trick, is this can also deploy on a Windows desktop machine. So it doesn't even need a server class operating system to deploy. So we do have some customers that are MSPs. They'll end up dropping in with their laptop, plug it in, analyze the network, and say, here's everything that's broken, and start fixing it. So there's the ability to use that in a different format.
Are there any sort of limits or thresholds as far as number of devices that are being discovered that I need to be concerned about with a single instance of PathSolutions?
We can go up to 150,000 interfaces on a single deployment. And again, that's that scalability that you're going to get from C and C++. It's just massive scalability. And even that size of machine, that's a 4-way processor virtual machine, 8 gigs of RAM. We'd probably allocate more disk to it, so it'd probably be more like 50 gigs of disk space. But it really is going to be snappy because this is all, it's coded in the right language that's going to end up being efficient. So you're not going to have a mushroom group of servers that you have to support. And that's another frustration we heard from customers is that, I have to set up a database. I have to set up a secondary database for the NetFlow information. I have to set up multiple collection servers. And if they want to do an upgrade of that platform, you've got to upgrade all of those servers at the same time, or the whole system collapses like a house of cards.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to keep track of in those other systems. So you mentioned one of the features was basically, I'm going to call it a network DVR, right? Like somebody comes to you and says, hey, at noon yesterday I had this issue, and you can go back in time and take a look at what was going on. How far back can you go and how long is that data kind of available to you?
Depends upon how much disk space you want to allocate to it. So completely up to you. We default to 3 months on everything because folks will say, 3 months is more than enough to understand what's going on. But if somebody says, I want a year, it's like, great, allocate more disk space, make sure we have the proper disk IO.
That's great.
And you can go back to a year.
One last question before I let you kick forward. You just mentioned 150,000 interfaces. Is that active interfaces? So if I have 300,000 interfaces, but I'm only utilizing half of them, is it only watching the ones that have traffic actively going across it?
So you can set a script up to say monitor only the active interfaces. And generally what happens is we'll set that script to run at midnight so that it's going to find those active interfaces and say, here are the ones that we should monitor and here's the ones that we shouldn't monitor. The inactive interfaces can still be monitored. And what I recommend is for most customers, let's say you have a 10,000 node network, you should monitor all of the interfaces, even the down ones. And the reason for monitoring the down ones is, first of all, the pricing isn't going to be that scary for monitoring all of those interfaces because we've designed it so you monitor all your interfaces. So don't think that this is going to be, incredibly ridiculously priced. The thing that's beneficial to monitoring those down interfaces is when somebody plugs something in and that interface turns up and it starts creating problems for the network, you're going to know about that and have a plain English answer. One of the examples, we had one of our customers just share with us that somebody plugged in a 15-year-old HP JetDirect printer. That printer came online, started spitting out Apple Talk broadcasts all over the place. And what happened is they got the alert that, hey, this interface came online and we're dropping a whole bunch of unknown protocol packets out of that interface. At that point, they were able to solve the problem within 5 minutes because they knew where that port was turned up, what was going on, what was plugged in. They had the whole history. They could say, wow, this is an HP printer here. Somebody just turned up and it's sending those unknown protocols. Let's actually go and down the port and go talk to the person and say, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think another use case for monitoring down ports is, I don't know about you, AJ, but I have over the years gotten called many times with somebody standing in a network closet saying, hey, I've got 2 new workstations I need to install and I'm staring at the switch and there's no open ports. And oh, by the way, the switch got rebooted yesterday, so none of the counters on the switch really tell us if a port that's currently down is really not in use or just down at the time. So if you're monitoring those down interfaces, then you can, like you said, that network DVR, you can go back in time and really see what interfaces have been down for however long you're keeping data.
And how long. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll be able to say that port was down and it's been down for months. Therefore, it's free.
Yeah, it's always better to unplug things that don't need to be plugged in than spend $10K on another switch.
Yeah. The pain of going through the purchase order, the justification.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of companies these days, it's like that's at least 3 months worth of effort, and yeah. So a couple other capabilities we have. So we have dynamic network mapping. You can set up multiple maps, so you don't have to have just one, but you can set the background of this map to be whatever image you want. If you want a campus map, if you want a regional map, a municipal map, and you'll put these live updating links and ping points on top of it. If something goes down, within 5 seconds, you're aware of it. If you have a link that becomes heavily saturated, again, 5 seconds, you're aware of it. And the whole point here is that you have an instant understanding of your network. So if somebody calls you up and says, hey, did you realize the Houston office is offline? You can say, yes, we're already aware of it and we're working it. That way you never have a user know something about the network that you don't know. Next is diagramming. So we automatically diagram the network. We're going to show you all of the subnets, all of the devices. You can move elements around. You can lock elements in place, but it's going to show here is how your network connects. You can download this to Visio. And if you need to search for something and say, gee, where's the 51 subnet? I stumbled across that just the other day, but I don't know where it's used. So you can search for devices or subnets. It's going to zoom in so that you can say, oh yeah, that's in the Austin office and that connects the Round Rock switches. So you can always understand where things are in your infrastructure and what the purpose and function is. As you talk about that network DVR, this is our Gremlins tab. So if somebody wants to know what happened 15 minutes ago, this will show you all of the events that happened at that point in time. Interfaces that change status, devices that change status, so you can help correlate what triggered an event. For all these devices, we have a wealth of information, traffic levels, all of your PoE information, layer 2 spanning tree information, topology change, root bridge, full inventory, manufacturer, model number, serial number, software versions. And if you have chassis switches, you can download the spreadsheet and it'll include all of the blade information, fans, all of that information. Full internal description. And we also do device configuration management. And there's 3 features that are part of device configuration management. The first is we can back up all of your configs on a set schedule. So if Friday at 8 p.m. you want your configs backed up, we can do that. The second feature is change notification. So if somebody goes in and puts a new static route in on a router, we're going to detect that change, perform a backup, do a diff against the previous backup, and then send an email notification out to the team saying, here's what just changed, so that everyone is aware of who made the change and what that change was in case it needs to be backed out. The last feature we have is large-scale configuration deployment. So if you have 100 lines of ACL that you need to push out to all of these Cisco Nexus switches in the Chicago data center, you can do that with one click. The Issues tab is going to show you everything that's broken in the environment. And again, the trick is if you knew what the equipment knew, you'd march down this list, prioritize it, and say, let's get 2 of these fixed each day. At the end of a week or 2, you're going to be running a perfectly healthy network because you know everything the network equipment knows. We include NetFlow, so we'll support NetFlow v5, NetFlow v9, IPFix, SFlow, JFlow, whatever you want to send to us, we'll be able to ingest that and be able to show you, here's who was using that bandwidth at that point in time. We'll show protocols, ports, top 10 addresses, along with all of the flows. We have built-in IPAM. Again, all this stuff we don't charge extra for. I guess we're a little like a luxury car where all of the stuff is included. You're getting the power windows, you're getting the air conditioning, you're getting the sunroof. So IPAM is included. So we're going to show all of the subnets here. And with all of these subnets, we're going to show, here's how that's laid out. We're going to show any Microsoft DHCP scope. So we'll superimpose that as well. So you can see what DHCP addresses exist. We do server monitoring, but the way we do server monitoring is vastly different than other products. What we're going to do is automatically monitor every server in the domain. You join a new server to the domain, it's going to be monitored. That's going to save you time. Other products, you might have to spend 30 minutes adding it to monitoring, add the CPU, add the free memory, add the free disk space, add services. We figure all that goes away. Once you join the server to the domain, it's going to show up in this list. You can click in and realize it's already monitoring all this stuff automatically. We're already automatically monitoring the services. That's all taken care of. That means your administrative effort is now down to 0. If you want to add services to monitoring, things that you want to ping or port check, you can do that very easily and say, gee, let's track the latency out to this service. Let's see if there's any packet loss to that service. Let's see if there was any outage to that service. You want to see your clients and know where everything is connected. Well, we know that. You want to see all your Dell machines? Do a quick filter on that and say, here's every Dell machine in the infrastructure, where they're connected, whether they're healthy or not, and when they connected. For cloud services, things that are outside of your infrastructure, we can monitor those as well. Things like Salesforce, Amazon, Office 365. If somebody complained about a problem connecting to Salesforce, we can click in and see the route tree. The middle row of the route tree is going to show the current path taken to connect to that. Now, we can see that there was an alternate path taken here. This was 32 minutes ago, and there was an atrocious amount of latency between these two routers. This is the router that made the choice to take that path. This is part of Salesforce's infrastructure. So we can call up Salesforce and find out that they had a data center outage and they had to move all that traffic to Seattle. Okay, that answers the question of why my user had a problem. If it was a backbone provider that caused the problem, we'd see that towards the middle. If it was our own ISP, we'd see it towards the left side. The last thing that's part of the core package is our ability to predict things. Now, because we have vastly more data collected than other products, we can do some interesting analytics. So the first predictor we have is a cabling predictor. What this is doing is it's looking for symbol errors. What symbol errors are is it means your Ethernet chipset had to do single bit error correction to fix a physical layer problem in order to pass a valid frame onto layer 2. 17,000 symbol errors, and we've definitely got a cabling issue going on. The good news is we haven't dropped any actual packets, but we go take a look to see what's plugged into Chardonnay switch interface 23, and we find an old Cat3 patch cord that should have been thrown away 20 years ago. The bandwidth predictor looks at every interface in the infrastructure, finds out which ones are the most heavily utilized and are trending towards 100% utilization the quickest. Then we give you a prediction date. Now, if the prediction date is a month away, no big deal. If it's a few weeks away, though, you have at least a few weeks worth of advance notice that you need to add more bandwidth. So everything I've shown you is part of the core package, and you get all of those features. That way you solve all of the problems for a network. You're not having to go say, gee, I need to write another check to get IPAM. I need to write another check to get NetFlow. You got everything. Now, on top of that, we have some additional modules that focus on telecom that has the ability to do call simulation. We can look into QoS queues. We have a security module that has all sorts of capabilities because it's integrated to the monitoring solution and therefore shares data. And that sharing of data means you're going to have more intelligence for security than you would with other tools. And then we have a work from home troubleshooting module that goes really deep into wireless, firewall, web performance testing to be able to find out what's going on with work at home problems. That's pretty much it.
I love it.
Got to end with our turtle.
I love the plushy turtles you sent out. My son actually loves that thing.
Yeah.
So before Cisco Live, we had 5,000 turtles, and it's just kind of this amazing thought to realize you can just jump into this pile of 5,000 turtles. I don't know if that's on anyone's bucket list. I can invite you guys out to say, okay, let's just
that's awesome.
Jump into the pile of turtles. It's kind of an awesome thought. Actually.
There you go.
And if your listeners want a turtle, effectively schedule up, go to www.pathsolutions.com, schedule up an overview of the solution. We'll go into more details than we did with this shorter presentation.
Awesome. I will drop a link to that.
We'll get you a turtle
in our show notes. So if you're interested, and after watching this, you have got to be interested in PathSolutions. So please go click on that, check out this solution, and get yourself a turtle. But more importantly, get yourself a killer network monitoring solution with PathSolutions. I love what you said. Visibility that matches your responsibility and know everything your network equipment knows. That's all I've ever wanted for a long time. And you're absolutely killing it and crushing it with PathSolutions. I love what you guys are able to do. And it's all included in that base package with the network ops. That's incredible. And only a 90 megabyte installer file. I still can't get over that with everything you do, man. Awesome. Tim, this has been an awful lot of fun. Tim Bertino, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Again, to me, it's all about being able to provide value with low lift in a short amount of time. And I love the phrase about, if you knew everything your network infrastructure knew, you would be leaps and bounds ahead of where you were yesterday. So yeah, this is a great presentation. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. And again, hit the show notes for that link and check out PathSolutions today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey y'all, this is Lexi. If you vibe with what you heard us talking about today, we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher. Also, go ahead and hit that bell icon to make sure you're notified of all our future episodes right when they come out. If you want to hear what we're talking about when we're not on the podcast, you can totally follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Art of NetEng. That's Art of NetEng. You can also find a bunch more info about us and the podcast at artofnetworkengineering.com. Thanks for listening.